Good to see you again this week. In just a few days, we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving. And I don't know, but this might just be the strangest Thanksgiving you can remember. A Thanksgiving of cutting down family recipes that are meant to feed a crowd. Thanksgiving without everyone around the table. Thanksgiving missing friends and family. Thanksgiving in the midst of confusion and challenge. Thanksgiving in the midst of division and competing worldviews. Thanksgiving in the midst of a global pandemic. Thanksgiving. Giving thanks. I don't know, today you might even be wondering, what in the world do I have to be thankful for? I'd like to share with you an encounter out of Luke's Gospel, the 17th chapter. It's beginning in the 11th verse. Now Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Were not all 10? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give thanks to God except this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." There was Jesus skirting along the border between Samaria and Galilee, a place any good Jew would go out of their way to avoid. They would do anything to steer clear of those Samaritans who they were dead sure worshipped in the wrong place and in the wrong way. Now, entering a village along this dividing line, 10 men yell out to Jesus. Well, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. They stay at a distance. You see, since long before the days of Moses, by law, lepers were to wear torn clothes, unkempt hair, whatever, just so that anyone with just one glance would know that they were lepers. Now, leprosy was a disease that everyone knew was contagious, even though they didn't know what caused it or how they could avoid getting it. And so lepers were to stay no closer than 10 paces to another human being. And as they went along, they were to warn others by calling out, "Unclean, unclean." Leprosy is a disease that's often called a living death. No cure, no hope, at least then. Well, this day, mixed with the yelling of unclean, these 10 were yelling, "Help us." Using the only thing that they have, which is their voices, they're hoping against hope that Jesus will hear them. Hoping against hope that this healer will do for them what they have heard he has done for others. Now, while most folks would ignore these 10 lepers, pretend they didn't even exist, look the other way, Jesus stopped, looked at them, and told them to go show yourselves to the priest. Dr. Luke tells us it was as they went, as they acted on the truth of Jesus' words, as they obeyed Jesus, they realized they were healed, cleansed, made whole, set free. And that's when this whole scene shifts, because we have no idea what happened to 9 of those guys, but the camera pans in on one man, one ex-leper, a Samaritan, who chooses to stop in his tracks, turn around, and run back to Jesus. And this time, instead of yelling, "Unclean, unclean," he's yelling, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." You see, the least likely candidate of them all, an outcast, a despised outsider, is the only one to give thanks. Now, thankfully, we're not lepers. Thankfully, we're not ostracized from family and community, although plenty of folks know what that feels like. We might not have leprosy, we might not even have COVID-19, but none of us is immune from the dis-ease of sin, of fear, of brokenness, of all that separates us from God and from one another. But the good news is that when we cry out for help, Jesus, Master, have mercy, have compassion on us, then even as we are, Jesus, who knows us and loves us, cleanses us, heals us, delivers us, and redeems us. Now, just after beginning to serve as a pastor in a small town, a devastating war broke out. A war that would last for 30 years. There was a severe shortage of supplies, shops closed up, fields were ruined, and just when you think things couldn't get any worse, they did. A famine hit, making even the very essentials of life hard to find. It's said in those days that 30 or 40 people would fight in the streets, not for toilet paper, but over a dead cat or a crow. And then to top it all off came a plague with devastating results. As the only clergy person left in town, Martin Rinker sometimes led 40 to 50 funerals a day, including the funeral for his own wife. And yet, in the middle of it all, he trusted God, and he was always ready to give thanks. It's out of those very dark times that comes Martin Rinkert's song of praise, one you might even know, one we very often sing when we gather for worship on Thanksgiving Sunday. Martin Rinker wrote, "Now thank we all our God, with hearts and hands and voices, who wondrous things has done, in whom this world rejoices, who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today." It is leaning on the sheer grace of God. It is giving thanks that begins with recognizing who we are and all Jesus has done, is doing for us. This day is a gift. Every breath we take is a gift. Life itself is a gift. Every bite of food, every moment of peace, every sunrise and sunset, friendship and family, the community of faith, the body of Christ. We are blessed every day in ways that we might not see. So what does it look like to stop? To turn around, to say thank you, for gratitude is an expression of faith. One commentator writes, "For those who have become aware of God's grace, all of life is infused with a sense of gratitude, and each encounter becomes an opportunity to see and to respond in the spirit of the grateful leper." Blessings be to you this week.